So back to child support. I think the solution is this, and I'm out your way. 2 years. Young woman gets pregnant as a teenager, young man and woman get pregnant. This is the 2-year plan. First 2 years are debt-free. You don't have to pay the government anything back. So she doesn't get to drag him into court and the court doesn't say, you owe us money for investing in your child through food programs, through early Head Start programs. Because in those 2 years, the boy has the option, or not even the option, he has the demand of the co-man to then go to a trade school. You have to go to a trade school, which incentivizes the United States to do it because we need more tradespeople. We don't have enough carpenters, we don't have enough electricians, we don't have enough people building roads. In my community, the girls are going to college and graduating. They have no men to marry because the boys are not going to college in the same way. My teachers were married to a tradesman. My teacher, who we call doctor, her husband owned a locksmith company. Her husband was a carpenter, was a mechanic. So they had a good life. Their kids went to school, right, the same schools we went to. I think that the incentive to solving the child support problem and a part of solving our infrastructure problem is to incentivize young boys who have gotten a girl pregnant. You must now go through 2 years of trade school.
Oh, wait a minute. So, okay, I like what you're saying.
Let me give you the rest of the answer first.
Okay, go ahead.
After that boy graduates, you get a further incentive if you and the girl marry. If you and the girl marry, we'll give you these incentives: zero finance home loans, something out of HUD besides an apartment with a leaky faucet and rats and roaches in it, but incentivize marriage, which then strengthens our community, the black community, and strengthens the greater community, because now you have more American marriages, you have people with stronger financial stability, and you have tradespeople married to women of education, and you begin to recreate communities like what Auburn Avenue was, what Edgewood was. I believe you could do this from the executive order, because the money that funnels down from the feds through the states to help mothers, then it can be attached. Well, we're not only helping mothers, we're helping fathers too. If a boy gets a woman pregnant, not only does she receive TANF, I see your face, right? Good idea. If a woman receives TANF, she receives this, the boy now has a must. You're federally required now to go to trade school. And in those 2 years, what you put out on the other side is a person who's trained, a person who has an incentive to marry, and a person who becomes a taxpayer and not just a taker.
Sensational.
All right, what up, though? It's Mike Perkins, a.k.a. Man Bun Mike, a.k.a. Michael B. Podden, a.k.a. Me So Corny, one half of MVP, one half of Opinions I Like Podcast, one half of Mike and Vince Perkins. And for this here, I am the whole show. You saw in the beginning, you saw the clip with Killer Mike and his plan to kind of reconfigure the black family and in some way, shape, or form, and kind of help the boys out. And on his face, I really, really like what he said. I mean, it's hard to really, I don't really disagree with a lot of the stuff that Killer Mike says. I think a lot of times it's clear that he doesn't have a understanding of what's happening on the ground because of who he is. And he's not really, like he ain't on the side. He's not on this side of things, so he kind of doesn't really understand what's going on the ground. So just a few things. I think the premise I think that he's kind of starting from is that black boys are out here just really, knocking up a lot of girls. 3% of the boys between 15 and 19 actually have kids. So it's not really a lot of boys that are really, impregnating these girls. You get a lot of guys that really believe the propaganda, that the black community is exactly the way that Tyler Perry wrote it and Oprah Winfrey produced it. It's Color Purple, Waiting to Exhale, and Diary of a Mad Black Woman Part 17 all rolled up in one. And it's just not, and that's really the tough part. You can kind of tell by the way he has leaned a lot of the responsibility onto the boys. I mean, and again, even the way he said boys versus girls versus women, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I get it, bruh. But like, that's first. I mean, I think enough of the problem with family construction. We've all but solved it on the guy side of things, and especially with the boys, since most of them, most of us don't have kids, and the vast majority of the boys don't really have kids. 3% is kind of a low number. I mean, we could say something about that. We could fix it, or try to, focus on it. But I think 3% is good. I mean, when I was younger, teen pregnancy was ridiculous. To the point where you had to say something about it. Like, I had a lot of girls that had kids, when I was, and again, it only speaks to the girls. So, I mean, I can only be, I would be, making my own point with the fact that it was a lot of the girls. A lot of the girls had kids in 8th grade, in the 90s, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Some girls that dropped out of high school rather, because they had kids. So a lot of this is really being put on to the boys, whereas you're like giving them a deadline. And not for nothing, man. Like, again, I agree with the idea of trade school. Like, I think I'm gonna put my son in a trade school, immediately. He wants like a year of rest from school. I'm like, nah, you're going straight back. You know what I mean? So I get the trade school thing. I'm really for it. I'm 100% with it. But the way he started it off is the 2-year thing. You get a boy 2 years, the boy 2 years if he gets a woman pregnant. Again, the boy and the woman distinction is wild. But you give the boy 2 years to go to school. He doesn't have back child support or anything like that. He goes to a trade school. He gets a trade. You also incentivize him to be married. By, if he does marry the girl, then he gets to get not low income housing, not like HUD stuff or whatever, but he gets, 0 interest rate on a mortgage or something like that, or at least a low interest rate, of which, again, I think that that's wonderful. The problem that you have is that you haven't done anything about, reform on the child, but a family court side of things. You haven't reformed that. That's still going to be what it is. And the system still wants its money. So it's still going to angle itself to take money away from the man. Again, now a guy with a little bit more money. And also, too, you haven't did marriage reform. The contract is still a 360 ass deal, a Puff Daddy publishing deal, a Suge Knight Welcome to Death Row ass deal. It's a 360 deal. And also, you haven't changed the culture that incentivizes the women to make bad decisions, And, I think that what he did was a start, It's a start. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think that it's very gynocentric still in its inception because it operates on the premise that the boys or the men are impregnating a lot of women. And I don't think he even knows the basic stuff of more than half of the men don't have kids. 36% of black men are married. Most of the time we having kids is in the context of a committed relationship, mostly marriage. It's just these things, even the idea that the boys or the men or however you want to call it are doing bad, or that black women are just graduating at this high rate. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just a Google search, my man. And this is not a dumb guy, which is why a lot of times it's frustrating to listen to Mike because, he's not a dumb guy. He's very well read. It just seems like when he starts talking about this shit, he shows, like, that's why I'm almost never impressed with people who know shit. Because if your know shit stops at your emotions or your affinity for a certain group, then it's just like, oh, well, yeah. Because on this side of things, when niggas ain't shit, we say niggas ain't shit. We don't allow ain't shit niggas to exist. We say it immediately. You know what I'm saying? Like, people can't wait to find out, that you ain't got no job, or, that you living off your baby mama or something crazy. If somebody find out something wild about you, man, it's just like, nah, you ain't part of the side. You ain't on this side. You on that side. The EDL and Pookie and Ray Ray versus Pookie and Ray Ray wars should let you know that, like, we ain't, like, we for black men, but it's a certain kind of black man. When you are just for black women, no matter what kind of black woman it is, you kind of show your hand. And you didn't say mandatory paternity test. You know, it's a big one. You just left that one out, just conveniently. You didn't say anything about mandatory paternity tests. 32% of the paternity tests are negative, dude. And I always argue, if we did mandatory paternity tests for the kids 18 and under and newborns from now on, that number would go up. We've had Maury Povich and Paternity Court and the new Karamo show. I think that's what the dude's name is. Gay, bald-head, black guy. We've had it on TV for the better part of 30 years. 30 years of paternity fraud shows. And we haven't said anything about paternity tests. Mandatory. You just said throw a baby on the boy. You know? And granted, I love it. I love that you get to, but all that does is makes him a more effective slave. You know, now maybe he's a little more comfortable. Maybe he gets to sit in the house. Maybe he gets to be in a house. He's a house nigga, but he's still a slave. He's still a slave to all of the bad parts of the culture. He's still a slave to, you know what I'm saying, the black woman that is going to put him on child support because she would rather be in a child support situation where she gets her money and his money. And also, too, he doesn't get to see his kids because you have not reformed in your estimation, you haven't reformed child support or the court system surrounding family. Like, you've only just said, hey, be a more effective slave. You know, and granted, it's better, I guess, it's better to have a job where you're making $70,000, $80,000 a year rather than, you know, working at Home Depot part-time and, you know, pulling in maybe $10,000 a year, obviously. But I also believe that if you continue to overlook the most obvious thing, that you never solve the problem. And we're continuing to lie again. You know, he wants somebody for his daughter to marry. Well, your daughter's probably not going to marry, dog. You know what I'm saying? That's probably not going to happen. If that's the case, then your daughter's probably not going to marry. You know, because your daughters they have to believe what you believe. You know, and I think that sometimes people experience, you know, they bar them from understanding what's going on the ground. You know what I mean? Him as a guy with multiple baby mamas. You know, I always find it funny that the guys with multiple baby mamas are the ones that believe that black men are fucking everybody and having all these kids everywhere. Those are the guys that typically believe that. It's like, why do you believe that and you got baby mamas? How many baby daddies do your baby mamas have? You know what I mean? And it's always the same thing. It's always the same guys. It's just like, you know, the black woman is guys really, 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 like, they're very frustrating. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that, you know, Killer Mike has ever said that. I don't know if he said that. Hopefully he hasn't, because that would be corny as shit. But yeah, just where he's missing the mark. He's missing the cultural marker. He's missing a lot of the legal precedents that are set, that are kind of above the idea, above his ideas. It's like he kind of got to change those things at the top first. It's a good start off. Again, you know what I mean? It's better to be, I guess, a more effective slave than a slave, you know? And I'm saying slavery, I don't mean slave. I'm saying slave, but I don't mean slave for those people who say it's slavery is slavery and child support is a responsibility. Nah, child support is slavery. Just what it is, man. It's just, it's slavery with extra steps. That's what it is. And you working for the bitch. You know what I mean? Excuse my language. You know what I mean? I don't mean to call, you know, baby mamas bitches, but, you know, tomato, whatever. tomato. But yeah, that's about time on that, man. Like, again, I think what he said ultimately was decent enough. At least he thought about the boys. But I just think he's trying to make more effective slaves for the women, and that ain't what it is. You know what I mean? Because this is, and I'm not gonna get out of here. The problem is that in his thing, he doesn't penalize the women for poor behavior. Where's the penalty for the women with poor behavior? Because most of the kids being had, it's a woman thing. 70% of the kids are out of wedlock. That's not because niggas ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like, one nigga having 3 baby mamas ain't because niggas ain't shit. It's because they like ain't shit niggas. You've incentivized their behavior further. Because granted, you gave the guy at least 2 years, you know, of like, whew, but he got to do something in those 2 years. And if in those 2 years he doesn't do anything, you know what I mean? You know, and he said that the state has to come in. And I agree with that. But if he doesn't do something in those 2 years, then what? It's right back to the regular. You've only incentivized the women to do what they ultimately were going to do anyway. You know, but have a more effective nigga because now he's an HVAC. You know what I mean? Now he's HVAC and he's going to make $70,000, $80,000 a year and probably eventually get up to 100. So now she got a nigga on her payroll. You know what I mean? She on this nigga's payroll. Like he got to pay her first too. She getting tax-free money at the top, you know? Like you didn't do anything to stop the women from fucking the guy that they're just sexually attracted to. That has 2 baby mamas already. You didn't do nothing to that. You just said, oh, okay, cool. Then you're going to be on child support. When do we do a thing or put some incentive in for the women to make better decisions, or at least penalize them for the bad ones? You know, like I think at a certain point we've been just doing that, and that's what Mike is kind of always. That's where he always wrong. When you back him into a wall, he's gonna go gynocentric. You back him into a wall, he's always gonna go gynocentric. He's never gonna go a different route. You know what I mean? It's gonna be niggas need to get it together, and it's just like, yeah, like I don't think you understand what's going on the ground. You in Atlanta, nigga, like Atlanta's so fucked up, dude. Like nobody wants to go there, dude. Nobody wants to go to Atlanta. I've been around Atlanta. I've been like, no, no. Like Atlanta, they just want to throw that. They want to just ball up Atlanta and throw it all away. Like Atlanta is horrible, dude. Some of these, nigga, Detroit ain't all that great neither. While I'm talking, you know what I'm saying? But nigga, Detroit, Atlanta is horrible, dude. Atlanta is bad. You know, niggas get set up and shit. Niggas, you know what I'm saying? Like it's bad. And we're still incentivizing women to throw their coochie all in the streets. You know, like when you go, like when is there gonna be a plan that says, strong independent black woman, if you really want to be a strong independent black woman, we're gonna take away all the things that facilitate and finance your strong independence and your black womanness. We're just gonna unplug all those things because you don't need them because you're strong and independent. When are we gonna start like believing them? They're strong and independent. They don't need no man. Why don't we just believe them and just get the fuck out their way? You know, like stop with the nonsense of it's incentive. That's what makes it more incentivizing better slaves, better plantation bros. You know, that's what it's doing. It's just, better plantation bros. You know, because you haven't penalized the women for poor behavior. Granted, she don't get back child support for 2 years. But like after that, dude, she gets all the stuff. It's just out of the 18 years. Now it's 16 years or 19 years or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it's 16, 17 years, and depending on whatever state you in, until the motherfucker gets out of college. And who ain't gonna defer to that? She'll fuck up his life, fuck up his or her life with student loan debt, fuck up their life, and then get some more money? Nah, of course. And then he got to pay that shit back. Oh, on God. On Granny now. That's what she gonna do. You set up a better plantation, bro. You know? But that's my time, man. Like I said, I always appreciate when Mike talk. With Mike, sometimes, man, like you gotta, man, you a brother, man. You gotta stop with that nonsense. But that's my time, man. This is Mike Perkins, and I am out.